let alone the design lead part. So yeah, I think that's amazing. So thank you so much for today. The fact that we don't have people in the front seat is because of psychology. So I'm going to talk about psychology and how can we leverage psychological principles in the user experience space, in the design space. That's what I'm going to share. So we've done quite a bit of work from Human Factors International, HiFi. I'm going to share a few learnings. Couple of things before I start. Let me get a profile of the audience. So how many of us do design, as in who are practicing design? Okay. So how many of us do stuff related to design, like for example, business analysts and maybe researchers and so on? Okay, yeah, and psychology. So how many of us here are completely, have zero idea about design, don't do anything about design? Yeah, okay, there are quite a few. So there's my brother here as well. But I'll tell you that you actually design as well. All of us design, whether we want it or not. The way we talk to our kids, the way we talk to our bosses, we're all designing something or the other all the time. So you can't escape designing. It's just that when you apply it in a meaningful way, you get meaningful experiences. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I hope you all are sufficiently hydrated. Yeah. So feel free to have drinks because it's a necessary part of the evening to understand psychology and understand yourself. How many of us here want our designs to actually get up and talk to our users? How many of us want our designs to really influence our users? Yeah? Only so much? That's I'm surprised. All of us want our designs to influence, right? To be able to talk to the users and get them to do what we want them to do. Because more often than not, you plan for something and something else happens. So how do you get them to do what you want them to do? In a way, how do you get designs as masters that users obey? So to illustrate that, and it's actually quite simple to do and also hard to do. So this is a small story that I picked up about this monk. His name is Banke, and one of those well-respected and obedient guy who can get people to obey and stuff like that. So this monk was well known in his period, and of course people were jealous of the fact that he was able to get people to obey, and because he was able to get people's respect, and he was very popular. So what happened once when he was doing a lecture, there was this other teacher who was jealous of him, so he came up and he said, you know what, I don't care about you, I respect you, but people tell that you can get people to obey you. Can you make me obey you? Because I don't care about you. So Banke, he knows a little bit of psychology, so he said, you know what, I can't hear you from there, can you come up? Can you come close to me and talk? So this teacher came in front, and he said, tell me what are you saying? So he said, you know what, I can't see you clearly, why don't you stand to my left side? And I can't, so that probably we can have a better discussion. So this guy moved to the left side and said, okay, now tell me. I think this angle is not right, why don't you come to the right side? So this teacher again went to the right side and said, okay, now let's talk. So tell me, how can you make me obey you? But Banke said, I already did that just now. Because you're obeying me right now and you're a good guy, so why don't we sit down, let's talk. So that's the thing, it's very simple to actually do if you understand people and get them to do, obey you and influence people in a very positive way. Of course, you can use it in negative way or a positive way, but at the end of this session, I also want to quickly share my thoughts on how to use it positively, because you have all the chances to use it negatively as well. So with that, let me quickly talk about HiFi. We are a company that's around the world. We claim to be the largest UX firm in the world, and we are in many places across the world. Not in Australia yet. I mean, we just started in Australia. I'm one of those first guys who's starting it in Australia. And we do quite a bit of work, so we do both UX certification and trainings and UX consulting, essentially for individuals and organizations. We are probably the only one who certifies organizations as well around their UX maturity. So that's about my selling of my company for today. Yeah, so that's about it. So I am the country head, as David said. I was in IBM. Before that, I was with Sapient. I turned along the way, I picked up experiences both from an agency, which was Sapient Nitro, in the marketing, the consumer experience side of things, and IBM, which was a little more than that, so on. Being generally speaking around, doing workshops around UX, service design, design thinking, etc., in various different places. I've written a book called Design Chronicles, which is on Amazon. Do pick it up. Yeah, but that's not the best. The second one will be better. So, yeah. Yeah, so do you believe that we are in a world where the only thing that matters today is the experiences that we create? That's how we can become commercially viable business-wise. Do you believe that at all? Yeah, that's what everybody's saying. I mean, this chart is an old one. It's actually 2016 one, and already Gartner said 89% of the people will be competing on experiences. If you look at experiences, what is experience? See, the other day, in about 15 years ago, there was another talk in which I was talking to a certain lady, and she said, you know what, I realized that everything is actually designed in a way. The chair is designed, the table is designed, the glasses are designed, isn't it? Everything is designed, actually. So why is it sometimes very hard for us to see? Nobody wants to do bad design. Each and every designer has spent time to do it, and they've thought about it. It's just that they've not come together. An experience is bringing all of them together in a cohesive whole. And that's what we're trying to do. Only when that happens, everything is synchronized really well. That's when you'll realize, you'll create experiences which go and differentiate and create business for us. So lots of numbers out there, but not really here for the numbers. Let me tell you what is a great experience. Let me show a small video of what I mean by a good experience. You know the Subway Symphony? Anybody?
Subway Symphony is a little idea I had to change the sound of the subway turnstiles into different pieces of music depending on what station you're entering. Rush hour, instead of being a nightmare, would suddenly become possibly the most beautiful time to be in the subway. But for the past 20 years, I haven't been able to make it come together. Heineken heard about it and reached out to us to see if they could help as part of their project to make cities better. I believe that music makes people happy and it can make them reflective. I think people are willing to do what it takes to live and work here. The commutes, the crowd, the costs. They deserve a little sonic gift on their way home or to work or wherever. The turnstile has to make a sound. It might as well be beautiful. Go to subwaysymphony.com to find out what we're doing and to see how you can help us.
Amazing, right? So the line I love in this video is that the subway the turnstile has to make a sound. It may as well be beautiful. So how many of us, there are lots of sounds that you encounter every day, and how great it would be if all of them produced music instead of those regular that beeps that you hear. I mean, why do you want to hear beeps? You may as well make it beautiful. So it is functional. If you notice, it is functional. It's actually turning, and you put in your car, and it opens and stuff like that. But also, it is delightful because it is desirable. You have a sound that early morning in an early morning commute when you're getting to your office you're heading to a busy day. So it's nice and pleasant to hear that particular sound and music and go. So it's about bringing both the function and delight together. And that is really what we mean by user experience, right? At the end of the day, it is about bringing both usability and desirability together. It's about bringing the functions as well as emotions together. That's what it is. As you can see here, it's about having a hook that people want to do stuff along with being, giving the ability for people to do stuff as well. So that's user experience, and the underlying part of creating a great user experience is what right now I'm calling it as is understanding people, the science of understanding of people. There's a lot of science behind everything that we do. Here, for example, the way we understand people, those of us who do research understand this. So it has evolved from cognitive psychology. It has evolved from cognitive biases, understanding cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are very interesting. You will never be able to get away from it, even though you know that there is a bias. So you will exactly do what you would know that others will do as well and fall prey for it. So that's the nature of cognitive bias. Neuroscience, again, a lot of stuff going on. There is more work today in the last 10 years than it has ever been around the understanding of the brain and so on. But even that is not equal to where we want to be. If there is a statistic that says that if the understanding of the brain is 1 kilometer long, and that's the distance that you need to cover in terms of understanding of the brain, where do you think we have reached? What is the distance we have covered in understanding of the brain? Any guesses?
1 centimeter.
1 centimeter, yeah. Any other? They're pretty close, by the way. It's 3 inches. So that's all we've crossed, and we need to go. I can't even measure. It's about a kilometer more we need to go up to in understanding the brain, and we're that far. So there's a lot of work going on in terms of neuroscience. All this helps in understanding people at a very deep level. That's what we mean by being empathic, and understanding, in terms of research. But it's essential for us to understand people on how they behave with others. Facebook's chief, I think he was the chief creative officer. So he spoke about the only 3 things that they are working towards. One is people and their interests, people's friends and their friends' interests. That's all matter to people. But then that particular behavior is exhibited in many different ways. And as you can see, we have 2 different selves, right? So we have an online self and an offline self, right? We have to maintain 2 different versions of ourselves, a social media version of ourselves, and an offline and a real physical version of ourselves, isn't it? So we have grown, and so we always have these group behaviors which are sort of different from our individual behaviors. So if you're creating a social network of sorts, how we do understand that? And that's essential for us to understand. So you need to understand sociology, know about that, behavioral economics as well. Daniel Kahneman has done a lot of work around behavioral economics, and it has given us quite a few insights on how people behave when they are in groups, etc. So I'm not saying that all of us need to be masters of it. I'm saying we should have enough understanding of each of these concepts to do good design. And the third aspect that's happening in our life is the advent of machines. So we are surrounded by technology, and tomorrow we'll have brain-machine interfaces, which will probably know more before you even respond. For example, our brain is able to decipher the fact that there is something that's going to come in front of the car, even before our visual, the visual faculty kicks in. Before we actually see and interpret, the brain already knows. So we just don't get it at that time because we can't interpret that at that point in time. So brain-machine interfaces are going to go and be very, much more responsive. So what happens then? So to understand that, you need to understand interaction between machines. There's a huge study around human-computer interaction and so on. So all of these put together, now you understand the depth of science that is there in designing a single screen, right? So we design screens quite easily. I mean, the other day I was talking to a friend of mine. He said, in 1 week I designed this entire website and so on. But I was like, but there's so much to it. So have you got it right? I mean, you've designed it, but have you got it right? So to get it right, you need to know a lot of these different principles. So I'm going to share a few of that, because this, as you can see, it's years of study, which we are not going to do now. I'm going to share a few tools that are there that we can start using from the next day. So before I do that, a couple of things. If you can kindly pick up paper, and I hope all of us are in the state of writing yet. So if you can kindly pick up papers and pens and pencils. So there are a few exercises that I want you to humor me with. So to demonstrate the power of these tools. Yeah. So some blank sheets of paper and pencils or pens to write. So no sketching, nothing. There won't be any major physical, stuff. Okay, so we are. So are we okay? Settle in back. Okay. Yeah. Let's keep going. Just conscious of time a bit. Thank you. Experiences are, how do you know you have a positive experience or not? Is only by the emotional reaction. Right. So emotions are at the heart of experiences. So if you got a happy trigger or happy emotion, that means you had a positive experience. It doesn't matter, the same things, exactly same stuff can create both positive and not so positive emotions in people. So the experiences of those guys will be different. So at the heart of emotions, at the heart of experiences are emotions. So it's very important for us to study and understand emotions, and these sciences help us in understanding those emotions. And emotions are essentially, in a way we were discussing earlier as well. So they are tools given to us by evolution to battle out and confront environmental changes. Some of them are in use today, and some of them are not. Like fear, for example. Fear, you have fear, you have anger and hope and stuff like that, which is in use today. Some of them which are in use today are not very useful now. They were useful earlier. For example, envy. So the reason we were envious during evolution was the fact that when we were hunter-gatherers, the friend of mine, if he gets a bigger pie of meat, for example, it meant that I get less, because there are always scarcity of resources at that time. So you were supposed to be envious so that you get the best there. In today's world, that's not required. If your neighbor buys a BMW, that does not mean you cannot buy a BMW. It's not that but you still have an envy. So that's still remaining with us as an emotion. So emotions have come to us to, in a way, to help us deal with environmental changes. So that's the way it has come to us, and the building blocks or the elements of emotions are the way to understand is drives and blocks. So what drives us to do certain thing, what blocks us to do certain thing. So that's the way you understand emotions. And as you can see, as I can see as well, it's pretty hard. It's pretty vague, and a lot of work is still going on to even understand what is meant by an emotion, why certain things trigger in certain people, and so on. But we have come, I think, sufficiently far to understand, in terms of the research that we do in user research, we have come sufficiently far to understand people's drives and blocks. And let me share an example with you on how we come to understanding drives and blocks. A simple thing like selecting a bank for a millennial. So a millennial is here and he's selecting a bank. So when he's selecting a bank, what are the things that drive him? It's a simple thing. If you think about it, it's about, with the one that I see first, for example, but or the one that my friend told me, right? It seems as simple as that. But if you really go and do research, you'll see that the drives and blocks that are there, and therefore the kind of decisions that people make because of those things. So let's quickly see this example. These are all the things that people are thinking and feeling at any point in time in selecting a bank. So you can't, it's okay, don't worry about reading it. So I'll just read out a couple of them. So I feel the bank staff, I feel embarrassed because when the bank staff asks me or looks at me that I can't even do simple stuff, in bank, and a lot of people don't know how to write a check. I mean, it's a reality, but it is embarrassing as well for them. So that's something that that's there that's the thing that they think, because I can't do such a simple thing which is supposed to be easy. At the same time, they also feel better and good because they talk to educated bankers, and whenever you deal with an educated banker, you feel good. Your self-esteem rises. So all of these things happen when you select a bank, and it's a very simple task, and you can actually go and do analysis to this level of detail. So here there is control. The drive is you want to be in control. The block here is being judged by people. Here is self-esteem is one of the drivers. So the ones you see, the arrows that are pointing up, they are the drives. The ones on top are the blocks that come in the way of selecting a bank. So you can codify to this level of detail when you actually do research, and that's what I'm trying to share here. You can codify and you can go into this level of detail and understand people's emotions. And when you just imagine, when you're able to understand certain persons or a segment's underlying emotions like this, you can do wonders to make his life better. At this point in time, all of our businesses, all of them, or at least most of them, are here to make people's lives better because they've understood that's the only way to make more money and do better business, right? So we are here in our business spaces to make people's lives better. How do you make it better? It's by understanding these kind of detailed emotions. So what we did from HiFi was we built this framework called the PET framework, the Persuasion, Emotion, and Trust framework. So the way this works is, and this is specifically for the digital side of things, digital ecosystems, more so than anything else, because we realized that that's where a lot of stuff is going to happen. But at the same time, not enough stuff in terms of understanding people has happened. So we developed this framework called the PET framework. And if you see, it's pretty easy, right? So there are, the first thing that you would want to do with anybody, with a friend of yours or with a business colleague or anybody, is trust, isn't it? An underlying emotion of all of our lives is run by trust, right? He can be the best guy in the world. He can be, the most, the guy who everybody loves. But if you don't trust him, you're not going to, hear him. That's how we vote as well. That's how we love our stars. That's how we buy stuff, isn't it? The trust is what is established in the beginning. Once you establish trust, again, now put that into an online context. Once you establish trust, you resonate and connect with people emotionally, right? So only when you establish trust, you can emotionally connect with people, and when you connect with people emotionally, that's when you could influence people and persuade people to do what you want them to do. So if you think about it, that's the framework, right? It's a flow. So you build trust, you establish emotional connect, and then persuade people or influence people to do what you want them to do. So that's the framework that we have, and what we have done is we codified this framework into a lot of little tools that we could use. There are lots of markers of trust in the online world, just like the way it is in the offline world. So I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But that's the framework that we use. So to demonstrate this framework, I have a small activity, and be with me here. Imagine you're the design lead or business lead or whatever. But today everything is blurring, so yeah. So you think that you're setting events, for example. Maybe there's meetup. something like this meetup, you are designing a booking engine. So that's all you're trying to do. Just a simple task booking engine. So the goal of the business is to, naturally increase the number of overall bookings and learn about events. I mean, that's what you want people to do in this case, right? So that's the business goal. So let's keep it simple. So I don't want to complicate it, especially after we've had beers. So that's all we'll do right now. So I want you to write 5 stuff that you want people to take, or 5 actions you want people to take, 5 things that you want them to do. For example, it's a booking engine, so what would you want them to do? Book for the event, for example. 5 things that you want people to do. Just write those things down, because we will use that to see how our tools can be used to, to influence in a certain way. So you have 5 minutes, and if you can do it before that, that's great. You could do it in groups. I mean, you could do it individually. I'll leave it to you. Yeah, it's a fairly self-organized kind of thing. Yeah, is that clear? So 5 things